Hunt is uniquely trained and highly motivated. A specialist without equal, immune to any countermeasures. There is no secret he cannot extract, no security he cannot breach, no person he cannot become. He has most likely anticipated this very conversation and is waiting to strike in whatever direction we move. Sir, Hunt is the living manifestation of destiny, and he has made you his mission.
Welcome, everybody, to the Monthly Movie Dispatch. We get together every month and talk about what movies we've seen, what we recommend, and what to avoid. What separates us from the other 100,000 movie-related shows is that we're high school friends and have been discussing movies for 15 years. We love talking film, and we'd be doing it even if no one was listening. I'm here today with Brandon Bowlby. How's it going, Brandon?
Hey, guys.
So this episode is going to be a little different. Brandon and I are going to talk about the movies we've seen in the month of July, and then we're going to review Ant-Man and the Wasp. And then at the end of the show, we're going to cut to a live, in-person, immediate reaction to the new Mission Impossible. We haven't seen Mission Impossible yet. We're recording this right now before that movie comes out. But yeah, Brandon's flying in from New York, and we're going to go see Mission Impossible together. So right when the movie's over, we're all going to stuff into a car and record our immediate reactions to the movie. That's something I'm pretty excited about.
I think last time we did that was maybe last summer in my parents' trailer for, I forget what episode, it was like the June or July episode.
Yeah, I think it was something in the spring, and we were doing the podcast a little bit different back then. We had a different sort of format, and I think we are all... But this should be interesting because it'll be like literally our immediate reaction.
Oh, yeah. In a car, one mic in the center, my laptop on my lap. It'll be great.
Right. And the reason we're recording this early and different than normal is because, so Derek had a baby last month, and he's still on paternity leave with that. And I'm going to have a baby, or my wife is going to have a baby literally any day now. And we just thought, hey, let's get the podcast out of the way. Let's record for the month of July. And, just in case the baby comes on Thursday or Saturday, or anyway, we're just getting it out of the way. So, Brandon, how's it going? How was your month of July?
My month of July was a little slower than June. I stepped it down a little bit. I think I saw 7 new movies. Went to the theater 6 times, which isn't any kind of record for me. But I've also been doing some other fun things. I was getting ready for the Mission Impossible 6 review that we're going to do next week, and I rewatched number 4, which I had never seen before, and then I rewatched number 5, which is a favorite of mine, and so that was very fun.
Brandon, did I tell you that I watched the 4th Mission Impossible as well?
Just the 4th?
Yeah.
Ooh,
I hadn't
nice.
seen it. I hadn't seen it before, and I got it from the library and watched it.
Yeah, it was somehow the only Mission Impossible I hadn't seen.
I still haven't seen 3, so I had seen 1, 2, and 5, and I went back and watched 4, and I'm still hoping to see 3. I think I'm gonna really like 3, but yeah. What did you think about Mission Impossible 4?
God, Brad Bird is like a master of pacing, and that movie like rolls so hard and has some of the best action scenes I've seen in a long time, and it's such a blast. But for me, I think the 5th takes it, and I'm even more impressed with that one. And I think the 5th is my favorite, which is why I'm even more excited for the next one coming out, because it's the same director as the 5th.
Yeah, I like the 4th one too. What's the 4th one called? Is that one Ghost Protocol?
Yeah, Ghost Protocol.
Right, yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, some of those action scenes were just like jaw-dropping. I mean, it goes without saying, like that scene where he's hanging on the side of the building and climbing on it is just, it's breathtaking. And then he runs along and like dives through the window. Like I'm watching it, and Shannon's kind of, not really paying attention, but she's watching it too. And she like stood up from the back of the room and like yelled at the TV, like, and she's not even like watching the movie, and she had such an intense reaction to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that like that to me is like a a movie's good in my book when my wife isn't even watching it and she's screaming at the TV. So.
Yeah. The like neon colored dust scene that happens right after that chase is fucking
right.
gorgeous. My mouth was just hanging open for that whole thing.
Yeah, and I really liked the end too, where they're in the carport. I thought that set piece was really creative.
Yeah, so clever. Anyway, so I do have another thing that I'm also excited for, which is I'm kind of going through a lot of New York City films. I don't know why it came about, but it started with me turning on the Rick Burns New York City documentary, 8-parter. I think it's like 16 hours long. And right now I'm 6 episodes in. And because of that, it also inspired me to rewatch Gangs of New York, an iconic Martin Scorsese New York film. And then I also watched Midnight Cowboy, which is Best Picture winning like 1969 Dustin Hoffman film, which was also really good. And then I'm looking forward with you guys next week to watching Once Upon a Time in America and kind of concluding, I guess, my New York month.
Oh, that's awesome. I just watched Midnight Cowboy as well. Yeah, I mean, that movie was something else. John Voight and Dustin Hoffman. What a duo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that movie up to a point. It got far darker than I was expecting. And I was expecting to go dark, but I didn't realize the direction it was going to go dark in. You know, I didn't realize there's going to be so much about Dustin Hoffman and his like disability.
Yeah.
And
and poverty, like that was
Right.
It was pretty rough.
I think I preferred the upbeat, optimistic first part of the movie with John Boyd in his cowboy gear, just eager to move to the city, and then the city just kind of tears him down.
Yeah, it wasn't what I expected at all. Yeah, how's the month going for you?
It's going great. I've been to the theater a few times. You know, I think I saw 5 or 6 movies. This was kind of a funny month for me because there was a week there where I saw 4 movies in the theater in 1 week in July, which that's pretty.
Fun.
That's like really good for me. Yeah. So I'm eager to talk with you about some of these movies. That was one of the reasons why I really wanted to make sure I could get on, the July episode because, man, I had a pretty good month.
Well, let's hit it then.
Okay. So first I wanted to tell you about the movie Uncle Drew. Do you know about Uncle Drew?
I don't at all, actually.
Okay, so Uncle Drew was originally a Sprite commercial, I think. And he was basically like, this movie shouldn't exist. Like, this was a commercial where Kyrie Irving, who's a professional basketball player, he's an all-star. He got dressed up in old man makeup and went to the local basketball court and showed the youngsters how it was done. And it was a commercial for Sprite. It was a long commercial, but it was a commercial. And when I first saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, wait, is this actually a real movie, or is this just an extended Sprite commercial before the movie starts? Because I saw the trailer in the theaters, and turns out there were no Sprite drinks in the trailer, and it turns out it was a real movie. And this, again, like I said, this movie shouldn't exist, let alone be a good movie. The thing is, Uncle Drew, the movie, isn't really a Sprite commercial. I mean, yeah, sure, there's some product placement, but it's not like he's dunking and drinking a Sprite or anything like that. The movie's actually pretty good. I mean, I don't want to say it's great or something that everyone should watch, and yeah, there are a lot of problems with it, but it's much better than it should have been. It has a lot of really fun moments. There's the other basketball players are all pretty good. The basketball is fun. Shaq is in it. He's really great. Nick Kroll has probably the funnest scenes in it. But I don't know. It's a pretty good comedy. I left the theater, not really after not really expecting much. I was like, yeah, that was a really good time, and it was one of those things where it was a pleasant surprise that it was much better than it ever should have been.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So, yeah, that's Uncle Drew, and it's still in some theaters right now. But
yeah, it might be a rental for me. So,
yeah, I mean, honestly, Brandon, I don't think that you'll like it at all. But Like if you're into sports or sport movies, it's not bad.
Okay, so the next film that I saw was Sicario, Day of the Soldado. So I'm actually a pretty big fan of Tyler Sheridan, and he's quickly becoming one of the most consistent writers in Hollywood right now. He's got Sicario, Hell or High Water, and Wind River all under his belt, which are like just flawlessly executed scripts, in my opinion. And I'm happy to say Sicario 2 or Sicario Day of the Soldado, it was no different. If you're a fan of that like super dry, serious and intense and kind of like meandering thriller that he writes, you will also love this movie. Granted, it does not have Denis Villeneuve or like the beautiful Roger Deakins shooting it, which is kind of the movie's downfall. But then again, neither did Hell or High Water or Wind River. Like those movies weren't that flashy either, but they were just so like strong and serious and intense that it kind of pushed through any of the shortcomings that the first time director had with it. And it's kind of the same with Sicario. Like there's some really creative stuff in here. It's not like a perfectly beautiful film like the first one was, but I felt like there was a lot to love, and I had my like hands still over my mouth, like trying to breathe for much of the movie. And I also just love the way he writes and the way characters kind of just like move in and out of the story, and they come or they go, and you really have no idea what's coming next, unlike a lot of other summer films you'll be watching. So I respect that a lot out of this film.
Yeah, I was definitely really interested in this movie. I'm kind of bummed that I didn't see it before so we could talk about it on the podcast. But, it's, I love the first one. I think most people did. And I was kind of, I was apprehensive about the sequel just because, I don't know, it didn't have Emily Blunt in it, and it didn't have the craft of, Denis Villeneuve and Roger Deakins. But how does the movie hold up plot wise? Because I don't know, looking at the trailer, I had a little apprehension just because like the first one ended with the kind of, in my mind, the conclusion that Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin's characters were like awful people, and it seemed like the second one, it's like it's more of them. Does the movie go further down the rabbit hole of nihilism?
There's much nihilism to be had for sure, just like in all of his movies. I think it definitely tries to give each of them a little more depth to them. Still, I mean, they're saying like a sentence or two every 5 or 10 minutes, the way these movies roll. So it's not like you're getting tons of character interaction, but it's less subtle than the first one. So you do get more character moments, is what I'm saying. Well, as a sequel should. It takes these characters, takes concepts a little further.
Definitely. So you go further into the Mexican cartel and that world of corruption and violence.
100%.
Cool. So that is Sicario, Day of the Soldado, and it's in some theaters right now. Otherwise, catch it on DVD when it comes out. So I saw the movie Tag. It's a comedy with Ed Holmes, Jake Johnson, Hannibal Buress, Isla Fisher, John Hamm, Jeremy Renner. Just a lot of people in it. And,
damn.
Right. Like, it was, and, that's really what was great about the movie. The concept of the movie is that there's a game of tag that this childhood group of friends has been playing basically their whole life. Every month of May, they get together, or they don't even get together. They just surprise each other and just play tag. And Jeremy Renner just happens to be the best tag player of all time, and honestly, it's like watching Hawkeye play a game of tag. Like some of the moves and maneuvers he does, it's like he's a superhero. He's just like dodging their hands and running up walls and doing backflips and setting traps. Like they're in the woods, and he has somehow managed to set traps for them where they're like getting caught in big nets and falling into big holes, and trees are falling on them. Like he's it's an elaborate game of tag in this movie. And
so we're outside of the realm of reality, and they're just having fun with this concept then.
Right.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. It's very silly. It's an over-the-top movie. And, it was pretty fun. The cast is what kept it together for me. It wasn't a great movie. I didn't really connect with the characters that much, but there was a lot of laughs. Just in terms of like earlier this year, we had Game Night that came out, and Game Night was just so much further, like, it was just such a better movie in terms of consistency of jokes and style of the movie. This movie was like, oh, what would it be like if Hawkeye played a game of tag with John Hamm? And that's what you got. And it was a good time. I'd rent it and watch it with some friends. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't something that you need to see. So that movie's Tag. Look for it if you're a fan of any of those actors.
All right, so another movie I saw was called Leave No Trace. This movie surprisingly has 100% on Rotten Tomato right now, and I think it's not going to move. It's one of the 3 movies or whatnot that are actually staying at 100%. And so this movie is directed by Deborah Grenick, who is the director of Winter's Bone. If you saw it, it came out in 2010, actually quite a while ago, 10 years ago. And it was Jennifer Lawrence's big breakout film, and it got a lot of notoriety and recognition. And she has not made a movie since, I don't think. And so this is kind of her follow-up 8 years later. And again, it's critically revered. So I went and checked it out. And while I'm not in love with this movie, I think it does a lot to like. It's one of those movies, again, where it's so subtle and quiet and almost like Call Me By Your Name was last year, where you're just kind of watching the expressions on people's faces and everything is just as hyper real as possible. But it's a really awesome, unique concept on kind of these people who are living on the fringes of society and dealing with heavy PTSD and this really great father-daughter relationship. It also takes place in the Pacific Northwest, which is pretty cool. Takes place in around the Portland and Seattle area. So I enjoyed that a lot. But yeah, it's a character study, and it's a very quiet, small film. What was that movie Sean worked on, with Hugo Mortensen?
Captain Fantastic.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Captain Fantastic type movie if it didn't have a single joke in it and it wasn't fun. Yeah, it's these people living off the land in the deep woods in the Northwest, and it's fascinating, and I get why people love it. I think I just wanted, it was maybe just too subtle for me, and I wanted a few moments that actually choked me up, or a few moments where my heart swooned, but nothing like that ever really came. It didn't really ever give me that, so I kind of didn't necessarily have as good of a time with it as I could. But I mean, for me, it's still a 4-star movie. It's great. You should see it. Everyone should see it.
Yeah, that's a movie that I've almost gone to a few times and then just went and saw something else or whatever. But yeah, I didn't realize I had 100% of Rotten Tomatoes. That's pretty wild. So I wanted to tell you about the movie Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot. So this movie is directed by Gus Van Sant, who's kind of like a Pacific Northwest hero director. Yeah, he's done a few mainstream movies like Good Will Hunting and Milk, but he's also done some really indie movies. And he's a Portland guy, he's kind of local. And this movie stars Joaquin Phoenix as a artist from Portland, Oregon. He does he's famous for cartoons, and they're very simplistic and filled with irony and slightly offensive humor. And he's basically he's an alcoholic, and the movie is, I mean, I jokingly said on Letterboxd that it's Alcoholics Anonymous, the movie, the hipster Portland disabled edition.
Perfect.
because he gets, it's basically like exploring his alcoholism and his struggle with staying sober, and he goes through AA, and it works and doesn't work. It's just, that's the thing about addiction and alcoholism, it's very hard to stay sober, and the movie takes a very real look at that. And I thought it was a very good movie. It was very emotional, very real. It turns out Joaquin Phoenix, like, he might be the best actor working right now. Like, I was kind of racking my brain afterward to be like, who else do I get excited about every single movie he's in? And it's a short list. It helps that Joaquin Phoenix isn't in that many movies, but man, every one of his movies is great. He's always really good.
Totally. And you just saw You Were Never Really Here as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we went home and got You Were Never Really Here from the Redbox, and watched that afterward, and that's a better movie. That movie might be one of the best movies I've seen this year.
Yeah.
Like, that was a movie. Oh, but Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot it was very, very good. And, it was a tough subject matter, and they approached it with realism and understanding. And the cast was pretty interesting. Jonah Hill was in it, Rooney Mara was in it, and Jack Black has a small role in it as well. Gus Van Sant's made a lot of movies. Since the 80s, he's been putting out, like, My Own Private Idaho. He's made a lot of movies, and I would put this, like, in the upper tier of his movies. Like, it's not nearly as good as Good Will Hunting or My Own Private Idaho, but it's definitely in his upper tier of his movies. So,
yeah, I remember seeing trailers for it in theaters, and it kind of flew past me. I didn't catch it. But Milk was one of my favorite movies in '08, and I don't follow Gus Van Sant as much as I should, so I'll definitely check this out.
That's Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot. That's in theaters right now.
Okay, so another movie I saw was Three Identical Strangers. This is a documentary that is about identical triplets, that were separated at birth, and quickly you find out at the beginning of the film that they all find each other in the New England area about around their, like, college age years. And from there, it's one of those documentaries that just kind of keeps getting deeper and deeper and weirder as it goes, which are the best kind. I love it when that happens. And the further the documentary gets, kind of the more complex and bizarre the story that's being told is. And so I really enjoyed it for that reason. It's really gripping, and it's really fun, and it explores some kind of, like, fucked up things that the government was doing back then when they were born. One thing that kind of really bugged me, though, is it, like, undercut itself in the final lines of the film. And this seems to happen every once in a while, and it's always, like, really unfortunate when movies do that. But, like, it's going one way, and then at the very end, it, like, kind of throws you some, like, BS thing that's like, no, like, that's not what you were telling me this whole time. That's not what I should believe. And I was kind of mad at it for that reason. But other than that, and if you can critically think yourself, the movie is still really fun and really interesting.
Yeah, that must be a crazy story. I don't know too much about it, but, like, that movie's gaining a fair amount of buzz.
Yeah, it'll be a perfect Netflix watch for sure.
So I wanted to tell you guys about The First Purge, not to be confused with Purge, the first Purge that came out, but this is the fourth in the franchise, and it's called The First Purge because it's the first purge that happens. I mean, anyway, I'm sorry. I think the Purge franchise is pretty interesting. Have you seen any of the Purge movies?
I've seen none of them.
Okay, well, it's a pretty interesting franchise because the first film was really low budget, and it was one of those trapped in one location type movies. The second and third movies found a bigger scope with characters that were traveling across the city while the purge was happening, and they also kind of expanded the ideas a little bit. The franchise is famous for having like brutal violence and like anarchy scenes that kind of tap into your apocalyptic, crave that you have. But it also has like a background of political corruption, and it has like some pretty blatant political ideas that it pushes. Anyway, the First Purge, I personally didn't like it as much as the other ones, and because it feels like it's not a misstep in the franchise, but it kind of feels necessary. Like, it kind of, election year kind of hit a breaking point at the end, and it kind of was, you had to go back. It just kind of made sense for the next purge after the third one to be like, hey, here's how the purge got started. But because of that, it kind of is about how it started out slow. There wasn't a lot of violence to get going. So if you're there for the violence, it wasn't that sort of like, awesome, like cool violent stuff. That wasn't really there for the first part of the movie. And the political stuff kind of was heightened as well. And, I think that was to limited effectiveness. I kind of think that, I don't think that, in Trump's America, I don't think we're anywhere near a purge actually happening. I'm not saying that, but I do think that for some people, it was a little on the nose, and it wasn't, the movie stopped being like escapism. It's not like a fun, we're not going to the theater for a fun horror movie with violence. It's like, this is kind of uncomfortable. I wanted to bring it up because I really do think the Purge franchise is really interesting, and I know some people are liking it more than I did, but to me this was one of the weaker films in the franchise.
Well, real quick, give me your power ranking. Go.
Okay, honestly, I shouldn't, because I haven't seen the first one. So, and the first one is the most different. From what I understand, the first one is the one that's like, it's a pretty grounded movie, and I'm either going to love that or hate it, Like, I've heard mixed things about the first one, but the consensus is that the family is trapped in one place. Mm-hmm. But I think Anarchy is the best one, and then Election Year, and then the First Purge for the ones that I've seen.
Okay.
So, that's the First Purge. That's in theaters still right now. What's your next movie?
So maybe my favorite film of the month so far has been a little movie called Eighth Grade. It's directed by the stand-up comedian / YouTube sensation Bo Burnham, who has some really great Netflix specials on Netflix. You can go check them out anytime. So this is his directorial debut, and it is so fun and exciting right from the get-go. Like, the score in this movie is super vivid, and I don't know if they turned it up just for the screening I was in, but it was like blasting my ears off, and as soon as it came on, I was like grinning from ear to ear. It follows like this 8th grade girl, and kind of is about her anxiety. And it's a coming-of-age film, and it kind of follows in the trend of all these great coming-of-age films we've had. I feel like since Boyhood came out, we've had quite a big handful of them. But this is it's a different take because it's younger. It's not the end of high school; it's the end of middle school, and you see like the inside of a generation and an age that you haven't seen on screen before, and that separates it from the rest. The movie just has so many great moments, and it's really like, as all coming of age films are, it's genuinely like heartfelt, and in the climax, it gives you just what you need. It's incredibly well directed. The script is amazing. Like, I don't know how they found this girl. She is such a good actor, and the way she talks is beyond natural. She like puts all these pauses and ums and ands, but it's like purposeful. Like, it's actually in the script, but she's doing it so well, as if she's just like this completely shy 8th grader. It's amazing.
Yeah. I really want to see this movie. I've heard nothing but great things. I will say that the reason I haven't seen it is because it's only playing in one theater in Seattle so far, and I know it's expanding next week. So hopefully I'll be able to see it before baby comes. But man, just the concept, I have to admit I'm a little nervous about, just because 8th grade is so awkward. I think back to middle school and I'm like, oh, is it going to be painfully awkward, or is it going to be like really heartfelt and beautiful, or is it going to be a mixture of all that?
I won't spoil it. I'll just leave you wondering.
Well, I mean, it has to be awkward, but I mean, it's got such great reviews. I'm sure it's something that you got to see. Well, that movie's 8th grade. Keep your eye open for it. It should be expanding anytime now. Another film I wanted to bring up was Sorry to Bother You. It's the directorial debut of Boots Riley. It stars Lakeith Stanfield and Tessa Thompson and Armie Hammer. And it's kind of a social satire about this guy who gets a job at a call center, and he has to put on his white person voice in order to sell the product, and he becomes amazing at it, and he works his way up the corporate ladder. And then there's some pretty crazy, intense twists in the movie, and this is actually something I would really like to talk about with spoilers, but we're not going to do that right now. But yeah, I mean, this movie is oozing with style and ideas, and I mean, to me, it's something that, like, I don't know. It's Boots Riley is clearly, like, it's his directorial debut, and he's jumping into the scene with a big voice, and I'm very eager to see what people think of this movie and what Boots Riley does next, and I want to see this again, because it was so much different than I thought it was going to be, and I feel like it has a lot of ideas, and I don't know, I want to see this again.
Yeah. It's got so many ideas. You can tell this guy, did he write it as well? Yeah. Okay. He wrote and directed it. He just sat there and contemplated every scene and was like, how can I fill this to the rim with like something weird or twisted or some curveball or some camera angle? Like, everything has something weird going on. And this movie takes place like completely outside of reality in fiction. And even in the context of the story, there's like extra shit going on that's super fantastical. And like either they're imagining it or maybe they're not, and it's just happening in the background. But it's like every moment of this movie has like this little twist going on in the storyline. It's super fascinating. It's pretty low budget, but like this guy has a vision, and it's been a long time since I've seen a movie that is just this weird and this stylized, and it was a blast watching it. It was more of a blast watching it than I did like felt afterwards. I don't necessarily know how much of an impact it had on me, maybe just because it was like too much too quick, but like I've left the theater and I haven't necessarily thought about it all that much, and I would love to see it again, and maybe when I did, more things would click for me, but I still have a lot of respect for it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that maybe not all of the ideas came together fully, like it was clearly his first movie is kind of the way I saw it. Like he's like an auteur artist, he's going full steam ahead, and he's got all sorts of things going on with this movie. I don't know. For me, it was like it could have been 4.5 stars, but I only gave it 4 because I'm not sure everything came together perfectly on it. But yeah, I'm eager to see it again because, I mean, first of all, it was really fun, but I don't know. I want to see it knowing what's happening, I guess. It's one of those movies where I think a rewatch will help.
Yeah. I'm really curious about how much this movie comes back later in the year. And I mean, we're already a little over halfway through, but I'm really curious how much talk this gets. Not necessarily, it won't have any talk at the Oscars, but like in critic lists or in, just in the zeitgeist for end of the year list.
Those are our short reviews that we were going to talk about. So now we're going to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp. Brandon, I kind of don't know where we should start here because I know I have the positive take on it and you're going to have the negative take on it.
Yeah.
So should I start with my general impressions?
Yes, you should start, especially since you rewatched the first one too and you kind of have a more complete picture.
So, yeah, I watched the first Ant-Man a little while back, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Shannon hadn't seen it before, so we sat down pretty casually, just watched it, and I had so much fun with the first Ant-Man. Like, much more fun than I had the first time I saw it. And the first time I saw it, I liked it, but, it wasn't like, Ant-Man, and it's just, the first one is just like constant jokes. It's just, the whole cast is really funny and their characters are so well defined right from the get-go. And then I loved the scale of it. I mean, I liked that it was a heist movie. So much of the MCU is the whole universe is in jeopardy. The heroes have to save them. It was really cool and refreshing that Ant-Man, the first one, was just, it was a heist. They need to break in and get something and go about their day. So yeah, I was looking forward to Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I have to say, like, coming out of Infinity War, this was a really nice change of pace. Like, Infinity War was so heavy and so sad, and everything was a struggle in Infinity War. Ant-Man and the Wasp was just a fun time. Like, it was a good time at the movies. And I know I say that a lot, but like, man, I really, really just enjoyed this movie. I thought there were some structural problems, which we can get into later. I definitely thought that, I don't know if it was necessarily overstuffed, but there were some problems with the climax and things coming together fully. But I loved where the movie started. It started right after Civil War. It's really funny. There's a lot of really, really good jokes in the movie. And yeah, I mean, besides like some of the structural flaws, like I thought it was really great, and I was pretty engaged with all the action. I thought there were some really creative action sequences, and with Ant-Man going small, or the Wasp going small and Ant-Man going big, like I thought there were some really creative moments. Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, so I guess when it comes down to it, the biggest problem I had with the movie is that I think we're going to probably agree on a lot of the structural problems. It sounds like we'll hash that out. But I also just didn't have fun with it. Like I wasn't laughing. For whatever reason, Paul Rudd wasn't dropping jokes that I thought were that clever. And there was a lot of like larger gags that I wasn't on board for, I guess. Like the him in the school scene and him being small, like my theater was like cracking up about it, but I was having difficulties getting into it. And it was kind of just felt like over and over again, I just wasn't laughing. That could have been my problem. But on top of that, I really disliked a lot of the villains in the movie. I thought the villains were super weak. Incredibly, like maybe some of the worst Marvel has done. I mean, that's saying a lot. I don't remember the first phase of Marvel Universe, but the worst they've done in a while. With the three like burglars, the like arms dealers who just like had a couple guns, but for some reason they like were causing such like a problem and they couldn't just get rid of them. I didn't understand what was going on there. They seemed like the most petty thing that shouldn't even have been in the movie. And it was really frustrating that they were like a cause to most of the like back and forth like chasing that was going on. when it comes down to it, Ant-Man ends up just kind of growing big and flicking them with his finger. And it's like, yeah, that's all you got to do is flick them with your finger and they're gone. I don't know why you haven't done that yet. And it took them like an hour and a half to do it.
He's trying to stay secret, right?
Maybe
he can't do that because he's trying to stay secret.
I didn't get that out of the film. Maybe that was a big part of the first one that I forgot.
No, I mean, like, he literally wasn't supposed to leave his house. That was like the biggest plot point of the movie. It was like the first thing I said.
Well,
like,
talk about that. Like, yeah, that was a weird. All three villains. So, like, if you count the FBI as a villain, maybe you could help explain this to me. I would like to come back to the third villain, but do you know why he was in house arrest? Like, I know they mentioned that it was because the airport scene, right? From the Avengers.
It's just because of what happened in Captain America: Civil War. Like, he joined Captain America and he fought against Iron Man and against the Accords, and because of that, he's trying to like do his time so he can, not be in jail the rest of his life, in prison the rest of his life.
What about everybody else? What about all the other Avengers though?
Captain America is in hiding. Like,
oh yeah, he did go in hiding.
Yeah, like they're all like they explained that Hawkeye is also like he's also in trouble. That's why we didn't see him in Infinity War. Falcon is also in hiding. Like, I don't know. I thought it was very clever because it was
it's making more sense to me. In my head, I was thinking about
there's
Avengers
repercussions.
3. No, totally. No. It's making more sense now. I was thinking of like just coming off Avengers 3. I'm like, there's fucking superheroes everywhere. Like, what's the big deal? What's going on here? And I kind of didn't place the timeline in my head correctly, but you're explaining it now. So that I wish I'd kind of known that.
Well, that's why I loved that joke, and I loved that he was like, Paul Rudd's this. He wants to be a father. He wants to do good for his daughter, and so he wants to get through this house arrest so he can just be a regular guy. I don't know. I think the biggest problem with the movie, is the three
mission.
Villains. Yeah, I mean, well, it's not even their mission. It's like it's fine that they want to go into the micro universe. Like that's a pretty cool, interesting plot. I think like that they want to go and try to save Michelle Pfeiffer. Like, I think that's a pretty, like, interesting concept. I think the problem is that there's, like, 3 different groups of people that are trying to chase after them. Like, I don't know what Lawrence Fishburne was doing in the movie, like, at all.
Yes. I had no idea what was happening.
Like, the ghost... Weird. The ghost character, like it just seemed like their whole conflict could have been talked out, and that's like, I hate that.
It gave me super like, Batman versus Superman vibes. It's like you guys have the same solution here. Just figure it out real quick. Stop trying to murder each other.
You don't need to be enemies right now. Just talk it out and like work together. And then like Walter Goggins, as much as I love him as an actor, like he's hilarious. It was like, what's he? Does this need to be here at all? I don't know. I just that was very strange. And that's what I mean by the structural problems. It's like, I don't know. It just didn't need to be. All of those characters probably could have been combined into one better villain.
Mm-hmm. I did like her little strobe effect that she had. That was done decently well. But yeah, her whole backstory, like being found in like Argentina by Lawrence Fishburne, and it was just so shoehorned in, that backstory, and that she suddenly needed the exact same thing Paul Rudd did at the exact same time so she wouldn't die. It was just like so much convenience for plot's sake. And then the resolution on it was just mind-numbing convenience for plot's sake.
Well, yeah, and I mean, they could have just talked it out. They could have just figured it out. I don't know. It didn't.
And then they just solve the problem in like this, literally almost the snap of a finger. It's like
right. Yeah, like I would agree that the villains are the big problem with the movie, but I'm pretty bewildered that you didn't think this movie was like fun and funny. Like I thought it was like very consistently like good jokes, like clever jokes. Like like the day after I saw the movie, I went to work and was just telling Cal about some of the works, my coworker, and he was just laughing and laughing, and that wasn't even like, that was me, my unfunny self, like, just like reiterating what happened in the movie. And I don't know, I thought this movie was like downright hilarious, and like, yeah, I thought some of the action was like really great too. Like,
yeah, let's go over that part of it. I'm curious what some of the action stood out for you.
Like that scene where the Wasp was fighting in the kitchen, and they were all throwing punches or throwing knives or whatever, and she was like going small and then moving real quick and then going big and hitting the guy, and she would do that a bunch, and it was reminiscent of like X2 with Nightcrawler, and like it was really good. And they, she'd get small, and then they'd be trying to hit her, and a huge thing would be coming right at her, and she'd move out of the way. Like, I thought that was really well done. And then the joke of like throwing the salt shaker and having that blow up real big. I mean, all like that was in the trailer, which is kind of a bummer that they spoil action scenes like that. But I thought that was like a really well done scene. I was totally engaged.
So for me, like that was fine. I think it suffered from a lot of what all the Marvel action movies suffer from, is like, quick cuts and kind of confusing editing. And I don't think they necessarily got across all her little tricks she was doing very clearly on that table. I don't know what she like squirted mustard at one point or did some other little thing with a frying pan. But I was kind of let down with how little action the movie had for an action movie, and what like little clever settings they put their characters in order to like deliver the action. Which, like, thinking back on it, it was that one scene and then the climax. And the climax was so cluttered with like bad villains, it was hard to like really care. And even the climax just kind of took like place on the streets. I didn't necessarily get like a well thought out, well conceived, unique set piece that I would have looked for in an action movie, and that was kind of frustrating.
I don't know, man. I don't think I'm ever gonna get tired of Giant Man though. Like when Ant-Man gets big, like I don't think I'm ever gonna get tired of that. That gag, that like how he moves as Giant Man is so much fun, and it's like clumsy but powerful. And like we don't get that anywhere else. That's like
riding the truck like a toy.
Yeah, like that's pretty unique. Like all of that is like pretty unique. Like even like Pacific Rim is like in that same kind of realm, but Giant Man's different. Like it's a very unique style of movement that he has, and I don't know if I'll ever tire of that. Like I thought that climax was really, really fun. And yeah, like we've had boat stuff before, but like I would say the action in this movie was better than Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah, Spider-Man: Homecoming, the action wasn't too good either. But there were so many other things that were really clever about it that made up for it.
Yeah.
It's hard to defend it. I don't know if I'd necessarily say the action in this movie was better, but they both to me were, a little lackluster.
I don't know. I definitely didn't think this was one of the best one of the best Marvel movies. Like I put it at number 14. So 14 out of 20.
Okay.
But like I put it.
So it's like right above the ones that are actually to you bad.
Well, I gave it 3 stars. So like there was enough in it. There's enough in Ant-Man the Wasp that kept me totally engaged, interested, kept me laughing. It was like more of the MCU. Like it was good stuff in the MCU. Like I left with a net positive, like by far. Mm-hmm. Like the only movies I had underneath Ant-Man the Wasp were like Doctor Strange, Iron Man 2, the first Captain America, the first Thor, the second Thor, Incredible Hulk, But yeah, like overall, I had it as a net positive. Mm-hmm. I still think you're crazy for giving this movie 1.5 stars, though. Like, I feel like you missed something.
I think maybe what I really feel like you missed something. Rewatching the first one.
I don't know, man. So that was our review of Ant-Man the Wasp. I thought it was pretty good. Brandon did not. That's still in theaters right now. So looking ahead to the month of August, August is kind of a slow month. So, Brandon, what are you looking forward to the month of August?
Movie I think I'm most excited for is a film called The Meg, which I don't even know who's doing it, but it's Jason Statham is the lead in it, and it's basically snakes on a plane, but with sharks. And it's going to be just a whole crazy cheese fest action film. And I'm going to try to go see it like opening Friday so I get that great theater experience. And I'm looking forward to Jason Statham saying the Megalodon. And it's going to be awesome.
Great. Yeah, that movie looks like a blast. Like Jaws or Deep Blue Sea, but on the most steroids ever. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to BlacKkKlansman. It's the new Spike Lee joint, and it looks pretty good. It's Spike Lee doesn't always get he doesn't always come out with the best movies, but this one's getting some good buzz. I don't know, it looks very interesting. It's about this black guy who goes undercover as I guess over the phone, he's like infiltrates the KKK, and then Adam Driver's character is like his body going into the KKK, and they are kind of trying to take him down or something. I'm not totally sure, but it looks like a movie that's
gathering intel.
Right, yeah. It looks like it has a lot of style and a lot of humor too. The trailer is really flashy and engaging. So yeah, I'm really excited about BlacKkKlansman. I'm hoping that Spike Lee delivers with this one.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking forward to the month of August. So now we're going to cut to us live in a car reviewing Mission Impossible Fallout.
Let's see how it goes. Well, we're recording. Should I do an intro?
Hello?
Hey. Should I narrate it?
If you want. Do you want me to?
I can do it.
All right.
Oh my God, I'm so nervous. All right, so we're in a car. We just saw Mission Impossible 6 in theaters. Mm-hmm. Nick Moffat wasn't able to join us, unfortunately, but fortunately, it's because he is currently in the hospital, having a baby at any moment. So yeah, it's just Derek and I, and maybe Kelly if she decides to talk as well. So Derek,
yeah,
rank all the Mission Impossible films from best to worst, or worst to best.
Wait, worst to best.
Worst to best. Okay, build it up.
All right, worst. I'd say Mission Impossible 2, then Mission Impossible 3.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
Then, God, everything else is so close. But I'm going to say, even after, I just rewatched Rogue Nation. I liked it a lot, but I'm still going to say, then probably Rogue Nation,
mm-hmm.
then Mission Impossible. Wait, I'm 3 in. Then Mission Impossible 1, and then Ghost Protocol, and then Fallout. I think Fallout was probably the best.
Fuck. Yeah. Yeah, about the same. I'd say, I don't know 1 as much, but I'd say maybe 2, 3, 1, 4, 5, 6.
Mm.
Yeah, I need to re-see 1 again, but It's kind of crazy that just 3, 4, 5, 6 in my head are just all a tier, getting better and better.
I mean, the last 3 have been just incredible. All 3 of them have been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it makes sense. I feel like 3 kind of put the movies in this different trajectory, and they've just been getting better and better. But I'm really excited. Christopher McQuarrie, I feel like him and Tom Cruise, their collaboration is just so perfect for what this franchise should be.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for him like, I would love for him just to keep making these movies and just keep, like, crazy Tom Cruise, like, doing this crazy stuff as long as he can. And just the two of them collaborating.
I wish they had found this collaboration, like, because they spaced out so many of the other ones so much further apart. Yeah. And the last two we got, or 5 and 6, we got much closer than the rest before that. Mm-hmm. I wish they had, like, found this groove way earlier, because Tom Cruise is 57, 56, something. Even though you can't tell, like, he's like immortal.
He's still, like, killing it, though.
But I don't know how they could keep going, because by the time if they keep going, the time the next movie comes out, he's almost going to be 60.
What if he's 60 and he's, like, just as impressive, though? Like, you just keep going. Like, if you're Tom Cruise, you just go until, like, you're killing yourself, right?
It seems like it.
Like, he seems like that kind of guy. Like, it almost seems like it's his mission now is just to, like, continually, like, show that he's the guy in Hollywood that's going to be making these kind of movies. And there's no one else to go, like, I can't think of another action star that, well, honestly, I can't think of another action star that's going to sell a movie.
Yeah.
Like, and not only, like, is there no one else that's going to sell a movie, but even if there was, like, it would be hard to top, like, the stuff he's doing.
They found the perfect mix of, I think, like, live stunts, action, comedy, and drama you actually have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody else is even coming close to doing that right now on this scale.
I mean, like, the closest comparison I feel like would be Fast and Furious. I know you're not big. Yeah. Have you seen them all?
Yeah.
Are you caught up?
Yes.
Okay. Like, they do, like, the thing that I dislike about Fast and Furious is that, well, I don't know if I dislike it, but I feel like they've grown so big that, like, the stuff they're doing is impossible to film, like, live action.
Right.
You know, like submarines breaking through, and like that's impossible. Yeah, there's no.
It's fiction.
But the stuff, but they still do crazy in-camera work too. Mm. Like in Fast 6 or whatever, when they're tossing cars out of a plane, they were actually tossing cars out of the plane.
Oh, right.
And so, I mean, I guess that would be the runner-up. But as far as, like, the quality of the film, the acting, and the writing, I don't think they come anywhere near touching what Mission Impossible is doing.
I'm kind of happy, honestly, that they're going away from the J.J. Abrams and Brad Bird. Everything's a joke.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we have so much of that in other action films, mostly the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Right now, where just nothing is seriously. Everything is for laughs. And even when, like, drama's happening, like, there's some like little quibs going on at all times. I think, and that's what Brad Bird kind of did with this film, and it was great. But I like this direction where you're still laughing, like, every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's not every 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Like a lot of other movies are doing right now. And it takes itself halfway more seriously.
Yeah. I think Rogue Nation was really good, like, palate cleanser. Like, for me, I guess that's just, like, Ghost Protocol was such a high, and yeah, it was so much fun. It's so funny. Like, it's a comedy.
Yeah.
And the stunts were so big. And then Rogue Nation kind of took a right turn, and the stunts were just as big, and the story was just as interesting, maybe more. But yeah, they got rid of a lot of the humor, and that kind of, like, it left a bad taste in my mouth. But now watching this, and I feel like fully realizing the potential of going that direction, like separating themselves from the other action movies that are out there right now, on top of all those, like, amazing stunts. And yeah,
I'm kind of getting tired of, like, constant snark.
Yeah,
from everybody.
Yeah, no, I mean, it felt refreshing, actually, in this.
What was that scene? I remember we were both cracking up towards the end. when he appears in the helicopter.
Well, it's just like thinking from the guy in the helicopter's perspective. They've been flying for like 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden Tom Cruise, like, pops in the doorway.
They like, lingered on his reaction.
He doesn't even have a rate. Like, he, like, is this army guy that's, like, meant to, you know, shoot anyone that's, like, coming. But, like, he's so caught off guard. He just like stares at him for like 15 seconds.
Yeah, that was great. There's a few other of those really good moments in it too.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what like I like about Ghost Protocol too. Is like I think Tom Cruise is really like has great comedic timing, and so when they do bring those moments up in this movie, it works really great. Especially because he's so intense throughout the rest of the movie. Like I love that scene in after the bathroom fight, the amazing bathroom fight. She's Rebecca Ferguson's like, you don't know what you've got yourself wrapped up in. And he's just like, I don't know what I got myself wrapped up in. What?
She came out of nowhere.
What did I get myself wrapped up in? Like, I don't know. I think this movie had the perfect blend.
Mm-hmm.
I also think they amped the action up a notch. God. And I think that like action can kind of replace like that like it serves a similar purpose. Like it gives you that thrill of enjoyment and like being excited. So it breaks up the drama a lot better, I think, than they did with Rogue Nation.
Mm-hmm.
Just constant set pieces.
There was so many. This movie, the pace of this movie was basically like massive action sequence that was just jaw-droppingly amazing, and then cut straight to them explaining what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
In like some kind of situation, and then they would like provide a twist right before jumping into the next massive action set piece.
Yeah.
And I there was another thing that they did that I thought was kind of calling back to number 4 with Brad Bird's scenes, where like the action just keeps going and going, and then right when you think they're like it's over, it moves like seamlessly into a next massive thing.
Yeah.
That like the chase sequence they had in Paris lasted like 25 minutes long. And it just like kept like turning. There'd be a little break of like a minute, and then the next thing would pick up again. And that kind of really reminded me of when they were like, you know, meeting in the room.
Yeah,
and
the Burj Khalifa
Yeah,
stuff.
Burj Khalifa, meeting in the room, climbing the wall to the server room, and then going straight into like the Desert Storm sequence immediately after.
Yeah.
And just like you keep it going like that, and that's pretty impressive.
That Paris action scene is like the quintessential action scene, I feel like. It's so perfectly done. And there's a twist in the middle of it, and like there's a solid build up to it. You remind me a lot of The Dark Knight, the Joker trying to get
out
Harvey Dent. You remember that scene? Like pretty much the Joker has like everything like set up, so they're trying to transport Harvey Dent, and the Joker basically bombards the convoy.
Oh right, yeah.
And it's just like one of those scenes where like they have the full in Mission Impossible, like they have the whole build up, and we know what's coming, and they like let it sit and linger for a while, so you build up your anticipation, and like everything's beautifully shot, of course. And then, like you said, then like twist, boom, we jump into the action scene before you even have time to like recover from like.
Yeah, what just happened?
Like, oh shit! And
even in the middle, they find these perfect beats. Even when you are calming down, like the cop finding them.
Yeah.
Like about to stuff the guy in the hood into the car.
Yeah.
And like it calms down for a second, but it's still intense, almost funny.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they like get out of that situation, it picks up again. The music picks up.
Yeah.
But like it flows so well.
Yeah, for sure.
Even within those 25-minute action scenes.
I want to say between this and Rogue Nation, I think besides Christopher McQuarrie just having a knack for like great action and like visually like good looking action. I know like there's a quote of him, like his 2 rules for action is clarity and geography, and I thought that was really interesting. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, he has a knack for somehow working in like character beats in a movie where they don't really matter. Like we don't need the amount of character development he's actually been building into these last 2 movies, especially with Rebecca Ferguson's character. And in this one, I'd say a lot more with Ethan Hunt, too. There's actually, like... This is the first movie I feel like we kind of start to understand like his morals and
Actually,
like,
that was a good point.
how he views his job, like how important it is to him and like his life and the people around him.
Him saving his friend at the beginning and like sacrificed that, and then they kind of wrapped it up really nicely at the end. Where why they need an agency like that. There was this one character moment that was like so small and quick, it's already like escaping my memory, but it was towards the beginning, right when they pick up Rebecca Ferguson's character, whatever she's called. They're both in a car together at night, like turning a corner, and it cuts to them inside the car for like a second, and she gives this like interesting look to the camera, and then it shows like her and Tom Cruise for literally like half a second each, and then it cuts away, but like it told you like so much about what they were feeling in that situation. When I see it a second time, I'll be able to pinpoint on it. I just remembering right when I saw that shot, I was like, holy shit, I can't believe they knew to put those two shots in there right before they moved on to the next scene. But yeah, there was a lot of good like looks that told a lot. And
I think this movie benefited a lot from being, I know, Kelly, you were saying you didn't see Rogue Nation, right?
No, I didn't.
This was like the first direct sequel in the series. It very much picked up, I think they say like 2 years or something. But it's a direct continuation of the story in Rogue Nation.
And the villain too, not just like the two female characters that keep coming back in his life, but even the villain too.
That's the villain from Rogue Nation. Is the guy he hunts down.
And they're even like referring to the like syndicate that's dismembered but still out there. There was a lot connected to the last film.
I really hope we'll at least get a Christopher McQuarrie trilogy out of this after watching this movie.
His character, is he in any other, like what other movies is he in? Because his voice
I don't know.
is just so perfect and raspy and creepy.
It almost like on the trailer, like I thought it was kind of silly because I forgot that when I saw this trailer, I forgot he was the villain in Rogue Nation. Yeah, so I watched this trailer and it's like, that guy has like the most, like they're like go as sinister and like weak as you possibly can. He came up with that voice. But then I rewatched Rogue Nation. I totally forgot that was the character. I was like, maybe this is just that guy. It's just how he sounds.
Yeah, I wonder what other movies
he just has that specific like.
He's a really good actor.
No, he's great.
And he fits the villain role so perfectly.
Also, I want to say, like, everyone kind of stepped up, and it looked like everyone was doing a lot of their own stunts. Definitely Henry Cavill was flying around in that helicopter, like, hanging out the side.
Yeah, everyone's, like, praising Tom Cruise, and I was seeing a lot of things where I wonder if things will come out now about, like, the making of some of the other sets that he wasn't in. Though... Who's the guy, the 30 Rock guy?
Oh, Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin's little mini action scene. I was like, they're definitely cutting away. Like, how old is Alec Baldwin at this point? He's like 75.
He's like punching people. I was like,
Yeah, it was really dark.
He's actually
so they tried
hurting
to get away from it. So
they got out of that pretty well, though.
Yeah.
I mean, they made it work.
So with some of the action scenes, there was, towards the end, right when you like the movie's feeling like long, and there's like a couple action scenes in a row that were much less than the other ones that like, again, they were in the dark, you couldn't see as much. It was more guns than like obvious stunts. And like that Tom Cruise run sequence that kind of went on for a long time, parkouring, which is pretty cinematic, but it didn't really like lead to much. And I was kind of getting worried because the last movie ended on a really personal chase sequence, like one-on-one for their climax, and a twist. And after seeing those action scenes that weren't impressing me that much towards the end, I was kind of worried where it was going. And then it was like cut to, brand new location, brand new problem. Clearly it was leading up to something, and when it finally got to, I can't say it, when it finally got to that final action scene, and when you finally realized what it was, and it went down, like my jaw was dropped.
It's pretty insane. I will say we didn't see it on IMAX, but I can't even imagine like that scene on IMAX, which I can almost guarantee is probably filmed in IMAX. It's probably.
I know the final scene. Yeah, the final scene was IMAX. You were saying a lot of the action scenes were in IMAX.
They claimed that they filmed most of the action scenes in IMAX. Yeah.
I don't know. That theater was almost IMAX.
I know, but yeah, it's like that's why I've been going there. It's like, it's almost not worth it to go to, like, spend all the time to drive to like a nice IMAX theater when that theater's right there.
Yeah, when that theater's so good and movie passable. Is it movie passable?
No.
Oh, damn.
It is AMC A-listable. but no, I've been just spending the extra money to go there. But
should we talk about a few gripes?
Sure.
If we're kind of getting to the end. So a couple gripes that I had amongst this pretty incredible movie was the lead-in to the third act. And I said earlier how much, like, exposition's in this movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a problem with a lot of the Mission Impossible movies because they do so many twists. In order to keep you up with the twists, there's a lot of people just saying shit.
Right.
And they're sitting in a circle saying shit.
Right.
But there's one particular one that was so bad. It was when they were all in the Jeep together in the, what was it, China? What?
Oh, yeah, they're driving through the hills.
Yeah, when they were driving through the hills in the third act, and it was like Kashmir. It was green screen all around them, and they were just clarifying things over and over and over again. And that scene looked like they filmed it like later. Like someone was like, I don't really understand what happened. So like, shit, we got to go back and refilm something.
Right.
And they like shoehorned this like 5 minutes of exposition of them in a car. That whole it should have been more like them in a plane traveling there because it was kind of a weird teleportation they did.
Yeah.
I don't know why they
have to, though. They travel so much. Like, there'd be so much time spent in planes if they were going to show us all that.
For some reason, that one was so bad, I was actually cringing.
Really?
And in comparison, the others, like, I totally accepted and was fine with.
Like it's mostly Benji talking, right? Is that the one?
Yeah, it's Benji talking about it.
Yeah,
he finally figured out his idea, and he's just like explaining his iPad, and then the girl in the front is like, "Wait, she's literally like, so just to be clear," and then repeats everything Simon Pegg said. I was like, what is happening right now? And the green screen behind them of like them going through those like rolling hills was really cheesy.
That's interesting. I wonder if that was like a studio thing.
Everything else is so on location.
What is happening? Can you add like a scene here that just explains it? Like,
I would have wished that they were just like Simon Pegg knew nuclear bombs really well, and they were just going to execute his plan from the beginning. Right. Not like he needed to figure it out over time.
Yeah, like with Ethan never explains anything. Especially in this movie, his line is always, "I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out."
I've said that so many times.
Many times. Which I kind of like. Like, don't explain it. We don't want to know. Like, we want to be surprised with what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I guess if they were to jump into just defusing bombs and just, like, not talking about it, I don't know. Like, maybe it doesn't work as well. But, I don't know. It's hard for me, especially right after seeing a really good movie, to find qualms because then I have to like come down from this high, like intentionally to like sour my mood.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a lot of like negative things to say about it. Like the running scene, I will say, is long, but I couldn't help. Like I was like laughing a lot of it. First of all, it is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But also, I could not stop thinking about. I saw like a YouTube video, and it was a theory about the more running time, like actual like physically running, that Tom Cruise spends in a movie, the higher its Rotten Tomato percentage is. And that scene was running for so long, and I was like, "This is his highest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes right now."
So I just went on a run this morning. And when I was watching that scene, I was just thinking in my head, like, how many miles has he traveled in just this one scene alone? He is just sprinting as fast as he can for probably like 10 minutes straight, which almost like no human can really do.
he's like, God, Tom Cruise running is just so great. Like, it's just so visually great.
That's all we need.
It's so intense. He's like, and he's running so freaking fast. Like, it doesn't even it looks CGI half the time.
Yeah.
Like, just how he I don't know what it is about it. And yes, after like 5 minutes of him running, you're like, holy shit, he's still running. He's like the fastest man in the world still after all this. They're jumping from building to building through windows. And he actually broke his foot in the middle of that run in real life too.
Oh, that run?
Yeah, and they used that take. The one where he Not when he jumps out of the window, but when he jumps between buildings and barely makes it.
That's when he
That
broke
was the
his foot?
take that he broke his foot.
Because he was
on.
jumping,
You
actually
see,
jumping between buildings.
Yeah, and when he climbs up, you see he limps off the camera.
Oh, right. I remember
And
that
they
shot.
left that in the movie.
Holy shit.
And then obviously once he was healed, the next scene he's flat out sprinting again. Or the next shot. Qualms, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I do think the movie is a little long.
So long.
Like it's hard.
Almost
but
2 hours and 30 minutes.
It's hard for me to say what they should have cut out. I kind of feel like maybe the first act was the worst, the slowest. There wasn't a lot that happened, but I do kind of appreciate the slow start at the same time, because Rogue Nation starts with the best set piece, I think, which is his crazy plane stunt.
Yeah.
And that's how the movie starts out. So you're like excited, and then it jumps into the boring stuff.
Yeah.
And you kind of lose. And so this movie started with the boring stuff, got it out of the way, and then it's just pretty much nonstop action until the end of the movie.
I looked at my watch. Not that I'd never leave my phone on, but I do leave my watch. I have a watch, and I looked at it real quick right when the Mission Impossible credit thing started. I was 20 minutes into the film.
Yeah.
That was a long cold open.
Yeah.
And I think they could have definitely cut down on that. Because at one point I was like, wait, had we already seen the credits? I was waiting for them to happen. Like, when's the transition? Oh, no, it hasn't happened yet. And we're already a third of the way through the movie.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird.
I can't get... This franchise has the best theme song. I can't get it out. It's constantly playing in my head right now. Just in the background of me talking. There's just the theme song.
When did the first one come out? Early?
96, I think.
Jesus Christ. So I'm dying in this car.
Yeah, it's 100 degrees in here. But overall, I really, really like...
I say we quickly just give our letterbox rating that we may give it.
I mean, I kind of have to give it 5 stars. Ghost Protocol I gave 4.5, and I think that this movie's better. And I think, despite its flaws, I think that they're very forgivable for what the franchise is and how creative and awesome they're doing with it. Mm-hmm. I can easily forgive it, those little problems that I had with the movie.
Yeah.
I'll probably give it a 5 star.
Damn.
A lot of people have been saying it's the best action movie since Fury Road. I don't think it even touches Fury Road, but it's an awesome movie, and I think it's going to be a classic to rewatch down the road.
I'd say because of some of the skill of what they're actually doing in those action sequences and how well some of those twists are actually coordinated throughout the middle of the movie, it might go up to 4.5 stars for me. Though it'll be interesting to how I'll end up comparing that to actual amazing dramas later on in the year when I put it side by side.
Is there any chance that it'll break your top 10 so far?
Man, there hasn't been a straight action movie besides Fury Road in a long time like that.
Yeah.
It'll be because there are amateur things that happen just because it's has that summer blockbustery throughout it.
Yeah.
But there's also so many highs.
Right. I guess we'll see.
Kelly, quickly, how many stars would you give it out of 5 on Letterboxd?
I don't know.
We can even cut that.
I think it's above.
I feel like
average?
I really needed to see the last one.
Rogue Nation.
Yeah.
Okay.
To give it a fair.
All right. Well, you should watch Rogue Nation.
I should.
It's also pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
I will do that.
All right.
All right. Cool. Thanks, guys.